There we go. I'm live. Ooh, okay. I think it's on. We'll see. Shiny. Okay, just waiting for folks to show up. This is the Self-Care for the Ambitious Artist webinar, and I am Jillian Walker, and I am waiting for people to arrive. While I do that, I will say that I'm visiting my parents, so I am currently in Illinois, and I'm in the basement right now at my parents' house. You may hear my mother's laughter in this webinar, just so you know. If you hear like distant chuckling, it's my mom. She's watching Mike and Molly, so that's what's happening. If someone is here, welcome. I'm not able to, let me see if I can change the screen. See if I can get, here we go. See if I can get a chat going. Are you able to type in questions? If you are, just say a yes so that I can see if I can see the question come in. Hi. It looks like there's a couple people here, and what I'm trying to do is just test out the chat, the group chat. So if somebody could just type something in there just to make sure that it's working, I would really appreciate it. Because I want you guys to be able to ask questions and to, to collaborate. Oh no, maybe you're not able to ask questions. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear? Let me check. Haven't gotten any text from anybody. All right, let me check one other thing, and then we're just gonna get started because we've got a lot to try to get through. Let's see here. Okay. I don't see it. I don't see anyone typing, but thank you for the text. Oh gosh, okay, hold on. Let me see if I can figure this out really quickly. Let me see if I can figure this out. Oh crap. Really quickly. Okay, hold on. Okay, I can see. Oh, thank you, Catherine, for saying that my hair looks awesome. It's still incubating. I went to the hairdresser today, and it should be pretty cool tomorrow. So I'm gonna have to do something a little bit funky, which is to have up the I'm gonna have up two screens so that I can actually see your comments, because I can't see them in the screen where I can actually see myself live, so that's a little funky. I feel that YouTube should make this simpler. I was expecting to just like pop on and be like, hey, how's it going? How's your self-care going? But that's proving not to be the case. Okay, anyway, I can see your comments and I can see me, so we are good to go. Hello. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Corinne. Thank you for being here. Corinne, thank you for welcoming me home. It's good to be home. And yes, as you said, Catherine, I got my hair done today. It should be fun tomorrow to play with. It's a good time so far. I'm enjoying being back in Illinois, and it's been so far a really grounding experience to be home. So it feels good to be talking about self-care, from a space where I've been so cared for and protected and loved. So that is nice. I also have some tea here, so that's all good. I've got a candle going, a blanket, so I'm all like comfy and really feeling like I'm practicing what I'm preaching. And that's something that I feel is really important. And I want to thank you for being here, because it's whenever I feel like I'm talking about self-care or any other topic that I feel really passionate about, whether it's, creativity and art, or politics and our, responsibilities as citizens, or our health and wellness. I always feel like whenever I put my ideas out there, it really forces me to step my game up. And oh, hi, Divine. I'm just going to pause and say hi when people pop on. So Divine says, I can hear you fine, but the video is spliced in black and white. Really? Huh, that's so weird. I'm not sure what to do about that. Hopefully in the recording it comes out okay. But if you can hear me, we'll keep it rolling. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Cheers. Cheers, cheers. And ladies and, gentlemen, whoever is going to be watching this later, please, grab something to drink and make sure you're comfortable for this time. We're really going to practice what we're preaching, or we're going to practice self-care in the ways that we really need to, in order to be fortified as creative and whole and full and active people. Yeah, so what I was saying before is just saying that I've really stepped up my self-care game by announcing doing this webinar, and I want to thank you all for that, because had people not responded and said that they were interested and wanted to come, it wouldn't maybe have given me as much fire to really step my game up in the ways that I have. So I wouldn't be doing this without you. Thank you. So as I'm kind of blabbing, I'm just trying to also give us a little bit of space to allow other people to show up, and to give you guys a chance to grab, some water or tea, if you haven't done so already, a piece of paper and a pen if you don't have one, because you may want to steal some self-care ideas from each other or from me, and take some notes or just jot down things that come to mind in this next hour. So go ahead and take a second to do that, and I'm gonna take a sip. Let me see if I can, there we go. Okay. Oh, I guess it's centered already. This is really bizarre. I'm watching two of myself, trying to make sure that the camera's cool. It's fine. All right. Hello again. Let's just take a couple of minutes since I feel like we're already in this space uh, to just breathe for a minute before we really launch into this talk today and this Q&A, this collaborative session. Let's just breathe. If you are in a spot where you can, just place both of your feet on the floor or in a comfortable spot, maybe cross-legged. And if you'd like to close your eyes, you may do so. And all you're doing in this moment is just noticing your breath. No need to change it or judge it in any way. Let it be what it is. So, thank you. I think that right off the bat is a really simple and easy self-care tool that you can use pretty much anywhere. If you're driving, I don't recommend that you close your eyes behind the wheel. that is not Jillian recommended. But certainly at any time, we can notice our breath. And what I find when I employ that tool for myself is that it really tells me a lot about how I feel in certain situations, maybe around certain people, maybe even watching a certain TV show. I notice that if I'm having trouble breathing, it's probably not something, it's an indicator of something that probably needs a shift. A good example of that is actually from today. I went to get my hair done, and I'm not in control in the beauty shop of what else is happening around me. And I think there's all kinds of people going in and out. It's a great metaphor for our lives. There's all kinds of things happening around us all the time. And on TV in the shop today, there was a show that I think it was People's Court or one of those judge shows. And it was the people were screaming at each other, and I don't have cable anymore, so I'm not used to that kind of stimulus. Even though I live in New York City, I am used to it in a certain way. But it just really kind of alarmed me, and I noticed that my breath started to get really shallow and that notated to me, oh wow, I'm feeling anxious right now. And I was able to obviously identify that it was because of these people screaming at each other about, $300 or whatever it was on television. But the breath is just a good way to know how you're feeling. I had a similar thing with Facebook where I recognize that I'm using this really great tool. It's a self-care tool for me called Facebook Feed Eradicator. Highly, highly recommended if you are like me, and Facebook can be really kind of make you feel all different kinds of feelings that maybe aren't great. So I don't have a Facebook feed anymore, and I've noticed that when I go on Facebook, I don't have the same kind of psychophysical response. I don't feel anxious. I don't, I'm in control of that environment, and what I choose to see is a choice. I'm not confronted with some, autoplay video of something violent or, something that I just wouldn't otherwise choose. And even when we have people in our feed that we love, everyone is free to post what they want to post. That's just a small, again, thing that you may want to look into and maybe not, but I just thought I'd mention it. So I wasn't planning to get into tools right now, but it just feels appropriate. I'm so glad that each of you are here, and I want to congratulate you for making this commitment to yourself. I thanked you already for being here. As for me, it's a bolster. It like helps me move forward and inspires me to do better. But what you're doing is really making a commitment for yourself and saying that you're worth the practice of self-care. And that is, I truly believe, one of the most empowering places that a human can be. Because you're recognizing that you don't need other people to tell you your worth. You don't need the environment, the political environment, the literal, global environment, natural environment, I meant to say, to tell you that. It comes from within you. And when that happens, when you are truly empowered. So each of you has made a decision by being here tonight to move forward and progress in your own empowerment. And that, to me, is the key to shifting our culture at large, to doing the work that we want to be doing in the world as artists. I truly believe you can't do it without first knowing your intrinsic worth. And your self-care practice is the foundation of that. So cheers. Cheers to you. Truly, truly, truly awesome that you are here. It is no small thing, particularly when each of us receives different kinds of messages that, we're not worth it. Some of those come from our own, monkey mind chatter. Some of it comes from people in outside circumstances or images that we see on television, or debates we might have recently listened to. So for sure, it's no small thing to then be able to say, I'm worth this thing. I'm worth this practice. I'm worthy to take care of myself, and I empower myself to do that. Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna break down into for our next part to kind of break down into a sermon, but I feel like I'm already in it. Like I've been preaching since we started. So I'm just gonna say a couple other things about the importance of self-care. I kind of touched on this, but I just want to really harp on, because I want you to hear it, so that when you're struggling to do whatever it is, whether it's to take 5 minutes for yourself before you walk out of the house, or whether it's, choosing to reach out to somebody and ask for help when you really need it, I want you to remember this, that your personal empowerment is collective empowerment. I'm going to say that again. Your personal empowerment is collective empowerment. That by you choosing to empower yourself, you are empowering the collective. And what we want as creative people, as artists, as generous spirits who want to give to the world, who want the world to be better than it was when we got here, it is the best decision you can make to personally empower yourself. So when you're receiving messages about self-care being selfish, or, who does she think she is and what's she doing, and she all thinks she blah, 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 whatever it is. For me, those messages come from myself. I would just say that. But whenever those things are coming in, it's really important to remember that what you're doing shifts the collective. It shifts the culture. It shifts not just your life, but your community's life, and the people who surround you. When they're watching you make choices that are from a place of empowerment and a place of intrinsic worth, that has an effect, whether we are able to directly see that effect or not. So I just have to harp home on that because it's really important. Okay, so let me shut up for just a second and ask you beautiful people to type in, think about this for just a minute. Give yourself a couple of minutes to think about what your definition of self-care is. How would you define it? And I will share my definition as well when we get to that. Does anybody have a definition or even a word that you would associate with self-care? Okay. Oh, let's see, Catherine. The practice of keeping body and mind in optimal working order. Yes, I really, I've been thinking about the word optimal a lot. And I think, what I also think about that word, I think about sort of streamlining or like a sort of alignment. The practice of keeping body and mind in optimal working order. Beautiful. Any other ideas? There's no wrong answer. And the reason I'm asking too is because, again, what I'm hoping you walk away with is your own drive and desire to implement your own self-care practice. And we throw around, terms. Self-care is a very hot hashtag right now. And we throw these things around without actually really defining what they mean to us. So it's a very deliberate act that I'm doing to get us to think about what our own definition is. I will share mine. And, okay, Divine. Protecting my inner space, being sure that my love bucket is full enough to share love. Yes, totally. I love that. And that reminds me of an Eleanor Brown quote that says, I think I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but something to the effect of self-care is not a selfish act. You cannot serve from it, or you cannot serve from an empty vessel. Or you cannot give from an empty vessel. Something, let me pull it up actually. Yeah, that's it. Self-care is not selfish. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. So, yeah, we have to make sure our cup is full before we can really give to other people. And I think that a lack of self-love does a lot of damage in our world, you know. Oh, Catherine, just had another thought. Self-care is the recognition that I matter. It totally is. Yes. Ding, ding. Ding, ding. And I think it's actually a challenge because so many people, it's really easy to see the worth in others. You know, we can see the worth in our friends. We can see the worth in our family members, you know, those people that we're close to, our partners. We look at them and we just know that they matter. And by the practice of self-care, or self-care itself, is the knowing within yourself that you matter. I love everything that you're coming up with, ladies. It's really awesome. My definition comes from the workshop that I did at Columbia. So I'm a graduate student at Columbia in my last semester. Thank you, Jesus. And I actually have been doing self-care workshops at the School of the Arts at Columbia. And so I came up with a definition to share in those workshops. And let me just read it. Okay, so my definition of self-care is a developed act of care for oneself in service to one's mind, body, and soul, or a practice that encourages the synergy of one's overall health and ability to contribute more fully to the world. So honestly, it's just like a grad school definition of what you guys just said. It's about filling your own cup. It's about, you know, I always think of self-care for sure as the same thing. Oh, thank you, Divine. Yeah, it's going well. I'm happy I'm almost done. Columbia has been a big test to my self-care. Actually, I'm grateful for my experience in grad school because it has been the thing that has really like kicked my ass into developing a self-care practice. So cheers. But what I was saying before is just that I don't remember now. I don't know. Anyway, yes. So all of that is great, and I feel like we could, you know, spend a lot of time really getting specific about self-care, what that means to each of us. And I think that it's something that will change. It's a practice. I mean, I deliberately use the word practice because it's something that you're continually refining as I see it. You know, you need different things at different phases of your life. Maybe you have something that you develop, that you work with for a while. Like maybe for a while it works for you to get 7 hours of sleep, and that's what you need to take care of yourself. And then maybe 5 years later, 7 hours isn't cutting it, or you find that you can get 6 hours and you feel great. So it's something that you're continually working on. And that brings me to what I'll end this section of defining with, and that is that it's important for us to show ourselves grace around our definition and our relationship with self-care. It's really important, and it sort of undoes everything if we are beating ourselves up for doing it wrong, or not having a self-care regimen that looks the same as, you know, some woman that we've probably just never met that we follow on Instagram. You know, we're all on different paths and we need different things. So it's important to be patient and loving with ourselves, and that is another way of practicing our self-care. So it isn't just about, you know, sticking to something. that maybe isn't working for you anymore. Okay. So let's talk now for a little bit about building your self-care toolkit. What are some there are some things that have come up already. Like in Divine's definition, she talks about protecting her inner space. And that makes me think about boundary setting, and about the importance of knowing your limits with people, with circumstances, with yourself, and when you just need to lay back and protect your energy, protect your sovereignty as a person. So I think when I think about the toolkit, I for sure think about boundary setting as a really, really important self-care tool. What are some other things that you think of when it comes to thinking about building a self-care toolkit? I can share some things. Knowing your limits and how to recharge. Okay. Thank you, Divine. Knowing your limits and how to recharge, for sure, I think is an important part of having some good self-care tools. And you don't even have to necessarily type in if you don't want to share. You can just be writing in your journal if you prefer that. Habits. I think Catherine says habits. Things you start doing automatically, like a morning practice. Yeah, so when I think about building a toolkit, I think about developing habits. For sure, a morning practice is something that comes to mind. I'm in the process of figuring out what my morning practice looks like. Like, what do I really need to start my day? That makes me feel taken care of and ready to engage with the world. Yeah, so all of that is good. I also put as part of my toolkit, or something that I think about as part of what I need to build my toolkit, are like a lot of time resources, like time management. Things like getting a calendar together that actually works for me. I think a lot about scheduling, because I recognize that so much of my time goes to just scheduling shit with people. And as much as I want and love being engaged with others, something that I need to figure out how to incorporate into my self-care are some tools that can really help me better manage my time, so that I can be at my full, maximal, optimal self. Another thing I thought of for building the toolkit is certainly community. And that for the topic of self-care, we often think of it as, self-care is about going into, a blanket and like never coming out, and you're just always like tucked away from the world. And actually, a big part of, I think, building a really good toolkit for self-care is actually asking for help, being having a network and resources and other folks who you call on. It could even be a part of your toolkit could even be just having a list or a spreadsheet if that's your bag, of friends that you can call on. An example of that for me is that 2 years ago I got really sick. I have um, an autoimmune condition, and 2 years ago I had a flare of my autoimmune disorder, and I sort of that kicked my ass into getting some semblance of a community together. And I sent an email to probably about 6 people, and just asked people to take shifts and come over and be my nurse. And people did it. And so community is a huge part. It's knowing the people that you want to call on. Having those people in your favorite section on your phone, or just having an arsenal of people surrounding you. Or perhaps it's an organization, your sorority, or some other group that you meet with regularly that is a part of your self-care. So I really want to throw that in, because I think community is one that gets left out a lot of the toolkit. And we always think about like running and yoga and, making healthy meals for ourselves as a part of our self-care. But perhaps, you don't have to do all of those things alone. So just keeping that in mind, I think is really important. So I'm going to throw out some just like random self-care idea. I just made a list of things that might be considered acts of self-care, just to get us going. And then I'm going to give us a few minutes to just be with ourselves and write down some things that we can add for our self-care practice. So here's just a few things from the list I came up with. Doing yoga or stretching. Saying no to people when I'm overtaxed or otherwise in need of my own attention. Drinking a glass of water. Playing a game just for fun. Calling a friend. Coming up with a system to save all my notes, or to save my, whatever papers that you want to save, or maybe it's a project that you're working on and you don't have a system. It could be a huge act of self-care to actually organize and get that together. Cooking a favorite meal, taking a brisk walk, making sure I get to bed by X time because I need X hours of sleep to feel like myself, asking for help when I need help, setting Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat boundaries, giving myself permission to do nothing for a few hours, saying no to company when I'm tired and want time to myself, journaling, watching a light, funny movie, placing my phone on do not disturb or airplane mode when I'm working or need time to myself. So that honestly was just a list that I just rolled off. Let us take, let me get the screen back. Let us take a few minutes just to write down anything that comes to mind. And it could be the smallest thing, or it could be something big, like taking a hot air balloon ride once every month. I don't know. But take some time. Okay, take one more minute. And we will wrap up for now. Okay. Oh, Divine says, take yourself on an artist date to spark creativity. That is a really, 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 really great one. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, things that are specifically related to our creativity is for sure something. Oh, here's another one. Visit pets at a friend's house or a local pet shop. What a great one. I really like that. Yes, everybody, anyone who wants to share ideas they've come up with, it would be lovely so that we can steal them from you. Weekly acupuncture. Yes, I love that. I would love to get to a place where I'm doing weekly massage. I have to work on first my budgeting self-care before I get to that, but it's something that I definitely have as a goal. I love that weekly acupuncture. Okay, well, if there are others that you want to share, as they're, you can type them in as you would like, please. But I want to just take a couple of minutes now to share with you my typical, what's shaping up to be my typical self-care practice. And some of it I've shared already, but I'll just sort of briefly go over what I do currently. First off, I would say that I have really 3 solid communities of people that I feel I can turn to and ask for help, or just a deep part of my self-care is to feel connected. And I think, ultimately each human in their own way really wants that, and it needs to figure out what that is for them. So what I have those communities, and that sort of surrounds my practice. But what I do is I write. I get up and I write in the morning. If I don't write, I show myself grace around that, and I usually end up writing somewhere later in the day. I let myself write for as long as I would like to, and that's nice because it's something creative, but it's also a really spiritual practice for me. Most of my deepest wisdom comes out of that, and it's been really interesting to see how the empowered actions I take in my life as a result of getting up and writing in the mornings. And I let myself write for however long I'd like to. It tends not to be more than 15 minutes, maybe. I don't ever time it, so I don't really know, but I do know that it's definitely not any more than half an hour. So that just shows, I think that there's often resistance that we face with, oh, I don't have time to take care of myself, or, oh, I'm already so stressed, and actually the irony of it is obviously that it doesn't take that much time. And usually even those, at least those small acts, and sure, they add up. They can add up, but even if you can't do everything every day, there are things that you can go to. And the other irony is that usually ends up creating more time in our lives when we take care of ourselves. So that's what I do first thing in the morning. Then I meditate, which is where I meet a little bit more resistance, but I just know that that means that I'm going in the right direction. I meditate for about 15 minutes right now. So, we're at a total right now of between half an hour and 45 minutes, maybe. And then, those are the things I have said I must do in the morning. And then there are other things that maybe I'll do, but I don't put parameters on them. The other thing I've found is that I constantly throughout the day am practicing being in my own, as I want to use Divine's words actually, protecting my own inner space. And what that means for me is that when I'm interacting with people throughout the day, when I'm, even talking to somebody on the phone or whatever it is, I'm really staying grounded in my own space and my own energy, and not taking it on myself to try to do someone else's emotional work, or necessarily trying to shift them in any way. And that's something that I think a lot of creative people have a hard time with. And I can say that the way that I've gotten there is through writing and through meditating. And so spending the time that I spend in that 45 minutes in the morning is the thing that's then, and my communities as well. I do have to say, like, I have friends that really reflect to me the things that I can improve on and help me to work on those things. So what I'm saying really is that the way to really truly know yourself and to be fully empowered in yourself is through the practice of doing it. And it's not going to start out perfect. You may not start out knowing the difference between your energy and somebody else's, and it may all be a jumble, and you're not sure exactly what's going on, except that you feel emotionally spent, and you're not quite sure why. So those are the things that I continually practice throughout the day. The main thing is like really checking myself. And then some other really simple things. I have tea almost every day. I just like tea. I'm even starting to like invent recipes, which I shared in the Facebook group. So if you haven't checked out the recipe, you should check it out. It's a lavender rosebud tea. And I take baths. I have discovered that a 10-minute bath, honestly, I'm not talking about, no waiting to exhale, like 3-hour bath extravaganza. Although that would be great maybe for some people. For me, I don't want to spend 3 hours in a bathtub. I honestly feel like time is suspended when I get into a bath. So 10 minutes feels like an hour. And it has been really transformative for me to be in water. And it has really helped my creativity. I've come up with some of my best ideas. And I forget that, I think often we forget, I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say this, that, we think about our self-care or our life as creative people as, oh, when I'm like, I'll be able to one day, swim every day or whatever it is, when I have a pool in my mansion and blah, blah, blah. But you have access to water right now. It's in your bathroom. So, so it's just a reminder that to take stock of what we have access to already. And the ways in which we can make our lives feel exponentially more extravagant in very simple ways. And again, we're not doing this necessarily to just be sexy and indulgent with ourselves, although, there's a lot of, for me, political reasons why there's nothing wrong with indulgence, particularly for women and women of color more specifically. But I lost my thought again because I was going down the road of the political, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's fine. It's fine to do that. But that's the reason why we're developing our self-care practice, is because we are people who are engaged with the world, who want the world to shift. And so by shifting ourselves, we're doing that. So just keep that in mind, that having a glass of tea is actually something that can do that. And if more people recognize that, I think we'd have a very, very different nation and a different world. So I'm going to be quiet, and for the last 10 minutes, roughly, I'd like to know if you guys have questions that we can wrap on. Oh, Divine says, another idea, visiting a flower nursery. Love that. I have just purchased a couple of plants and brought them home. But I think even just visiting a nursery is really great. Being with nature at any time is a really great self-care practice. And then you also say, simple ways to feel extravagant. Yes, there are so many simple ways to feel extravagant. And what that does, how that bolsters us for doing better work in the world and for opening up our creativity is, I think, worth doing. So if there are questions, please type them in the chat box. Are there struggles that you guys have with your self-care practice that you want to talk about, or questions for me more about my stuff? I'm happy to answer those too. Well, while I'm waiting, I will say, Divine says, some of what you said about energy sounds like you're an empath. Yes, I am. Yes, I am an empath. And I think many, many artists are empaths. In fact, I would venture to say all artists are empaths, but maybe I need to think about that some more before I make such a declarative statement. But I don't know. I think that's, would you say you're an empath, Divine? Catherine says, biggest challenge for me is prioritizing it and building it into the structure of my day, that and consistency. Yes. Okay, so great. So Divine, yes, I know you're an empath too. Okay, I thought so. Just confirming. So let me answer Catherine's question, and then we'll go to you, Divine. Catherine's not really asking a question, but I want to comment on what you're saying, Catherine. Thank you. Thank you for your comments, ladies. Yes, the biggest challenge is prioritizing it and building it into the structure of your day. I find that is true for me, and the consistency of it. But I think the consistency is hard for the same reason that prioritizing it is hard, and that is that self-care uh, is self-love. And each day, you know, we're wavering, or we're in a different place with how we feel about ourselves. Some days it's really clear and easy for us to see that we should love ourselves, and we're dropped into that place. And then, you know, other days it's a little bit murky, um, or challenging for other reasons. You know, we are, particularly as women, dealing with internalized sexism and you know, oppression that comes from many sources, and those things seep very deeply into us, not to mention our families and you know, our learned behaviors from our family culture and from the culture at large. So I think a simple solution for both of us is just to continually fall into grace, you know, and just to know that this is a long game, that we're doing this for as something that we want to implement for the rest of our lives. And our lives, you know, have far to go still. So we can show ourselves grace around being inconsistent, you know, and having trouble prioritizing, because the work of self-care is, you know, also contingent upon the work that we're doing to just be able to accept ourselves. And you know, they're one and the same, and then there are also pieces, I think, that are different or sort of outside of the realm of self-care. Maybe not, but grace, I think, is the simplest answer that I can think of, and the only one that really, I think, somehow can't become a punishment. You know, so that's my response to that. And in terms of divine, in terms of ways to protect your energy, I will share a. Let me pull it up right now, actually, while I'm talking. There's a great meditation that I found. Da, da, da. What I will say is that it has a lot to do with grounding yourself, with being grounded. Here, I'm going to send it. It has a lot to do with that. Just really working to be grounded and to continually ground. When you're grounded, you can feel and know when you're in your own energy, and when you're picking up on the energy of people around you. So that's what I would say. And I'm going to also send you a grounding meditation that I found on YouTube that I really like. And if there are any final questions, it's 9 o'clock. While I'm looking for this, if there are any final questions, please ask them now. And I will also say, here it is. There we go. So I just sent both. They're right in our chat. And I will also say this, that I'm happy to jam with you on your self-care and overall your wellness practice, if you would like. And I'm going to be in January, I think for the month of January, doing just like Skype sessions with people, because I really, really believe that if we want to do the work that we are here to do as creative people, you're welcome, Divine. We need to show up for ourselves in this way. And I want to support you, and I want to support any people who want to do this work for themselves. Ultimately, this is about self-empowerment. And I cannot empower you, but I can hold space for you while you empower yourself. So if that's something you're interested in, having a session with me in January, send me an email at thisisjillianwalker@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it. And I want to thank you all for coming. This has been really awesome. And anytime, I think, when artists, creative people, empaths, people who care about the world and about themselves come together, things do shift, even if we can't see them right away or feel them right away. They shift, things change. The world is different now because we were all here tonight. So thank you so much. I love you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. I highly recommend your favorite self-care things that you wrote down. I highly recommend holding to those tightly this week while you're with loved ones and various things. Taking care of yourself. Okay? Good night, beloveds. Am I still on? Oh God. Okay.